One man can change the world with a bullet in the right place.
And we're back with episode 7, titled As Seen on TV. I'm going to do a little bit of a discussion on quote-unquote famous firearms that we've all seen on TV and in movies and stuff. Of course, my wealth of knowledge, the Bag Man is here. How you doing, sir?
We're here. Let's do it, baby.
Yeah, just get used to, I have to keep introducing you to the audience.
I know. It's me. I'm here.
It gets awkward.
Hello, I also participate.
Yes, because it would be real boring if I just sat here asking myself these questions and never getting an answer. So we need you, sir. We need you. You are important to this project.
Thanks.
So, all right. So we're both 80s babies. So we've had a lot of TV and movie firearms exposure. Off air, we had the conversation of how growing up, the bad guys always had the AK-47s and the good guys always had the AR-15s, you know, Delta Force versus the terrorists, or the police force versus the street gangs and stuff. So, you know, those are the two most obvious ones. The first one I want to really ask you about, probably the biggest and the baddest gun of all movie history, Predator. Jesse the Body Ventura.
Bunch of slap-jawed faggots around here. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
What is that big baby
General
right there?
Electric M134 minigun. So there's multiple versions of that, but at the time it was General Electric, and that was based on a mounted defensive weapon that was used in Vietnam that they came up with the bright idea to make it, because Jesse Ventura is a monster at the time. Let's make the meanest, most messed up man-portable weapon ever seen on film. And I remember Jesse Ventura, you can find interviews with Jesse Ventura after doing that movie where he's talking about, like, this is the greatest thing that's ever been done on film. And he's like bragging about the gun and everything. And it's a monster. Like, it's absolutely, the thing fires 3,000 rounds a minute. What they don't show you, what you don't see in the movies, was it wasn't actually man portable. So it had the ammo pack on his back, but there were like multiple car batteries and a litany of cables that connected to the gun to power it, because that thing is actually electronically controlled.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It was not designed to be walked around with. So there's newer versions of it that, from what I understand, are actually man portable. But at the time, my understanding was, it was a little bit of movie magic, in addition to the fact that this thing was devastating. Multiple barrels rotating. Yeah.
I had no idea that there was an electrical component to it.
Oh yeah. Well, it was originally made by General Electric. It was like just an absolute demon.
I'm still in shock by that. The same people who made
General Electric, we bring good things to life.
Yes.
And use them to kill aliens.
But we don't have time to bleed, because we're going to skip on to the next one.
Right.
Same movie. One of my favorite firearms. I don't know, grenade launcher? Is it the M203? That's the one with the clicking barrel underneath it?
Right. It's basically a big single shot tube. The one Arnold used in the movie was actually an M203 prototype. So that was not the one that went into military service and production.
Okay.
And years ago, a buddy of mine was getting married, and he's a huge movie buff. He builds home theaters. Like, he's very proud that his home theater is actually louder and has better audio than the movie theater you would pay to go to. His home theater blows that out of the water. But he's a huge Predator fan, and that's what he wanted, was a replica of that gun. So what we did was an airsoft that was mocked up to look like that. And boy, was that a bigger project than I anticipated it being. But that was in doing the research for that. That's when I found out that, not a standard M203 undermounted on an M16. It was actually an early prototype that they used for the movie.
Oh, that's the one Arnold had undermounted, but there was another guy in the squad that had the standalone version.
The shotgun.
You got time to duck?
Okay, so that was, I'm trying to remember, the L7 six-shot grenade launcher. You're talking about Poncho that had the, you ain't got time to bleed. You got time to duck. Boom, boom, boom,
exactly.
Right. Yeah, multiple shot grenade launcher, basically a giant revolver.
Okay.
And that was, I want to say, an L7. I forget the manufacturer on it, but that was later replaced by the Milcor, which is the modern version of that, and there's something still currently in use in a 40 millimeter grenade launcher package. Can also be set up as a 37 millimeter grenade launcher for like riot use, for tear gas and things like that.
Yeah.
Right, so that it's not the same quote unquote caliber as the military version that uses anything from smoke to high explosive rounds and all that.
Okay, what's the Dirty Harry gun?
He tells you in great detail that it's a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun on the planet.
But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Which
may or may not have been true at the time, but I believe it was a Colt Python in 44.
Shit, that sounds dangerous. The Colt Pythons.
Yeah. It's a really big handgun.
Okay. What are some of your favorite, as seen on TV and movies, firearms?
So, anybody who's ever caught me on any of the other podcasts that I've participated in knows I'm going to throw this out there. The MAC-10. MAC-10 is one of my all-time favorites. 45 ACP, full auto, open bolt, sick little submachine gun. And that one was introduced to the world in a John Wayne movie called McHugh.
Hey, Lon.
Jack?
What are you doing?
Buying a gun. This one.
Got a minute? I got something I want to show you in back.
Which was originally supposed to be for Steve McQueen. And then he passed and they replaced him with John Wayne. And if you watch it, it's a pretty awful movie in the sense that you can tell this was supposed to be for Steve McQueen, and John Wayne is trying to do it. Like he's a cop, but he's got a ridiculously cool car that's just out of place that would have looked much better on Steve McQueen. And he goes and sees some woman and has an encounter with her that, again, probably would have been less cringy had it been someone, I don't know, 150 years younger. This was pretty late in John Wayne's career. The unconvincing hairpiece he was wearing, just all of it. But the MAC-10 was awesome in the movie, and he does it. You can pay $5 to rent it on a streaming service, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're new to Pew, because you'll see him do a bunch of things that may or may not have been legal at the time and how he acquired that firearm.
Lon, it's not licensed.
Jack, neither am I.
And certainly are going to be shocking to viewers now that he goes into a gun shop and he goes, "Hey, I need something." And the guy's like, "Oh, I've got this new thing in the back." And he goes, "Great, I'll take it," throws it in a duffel bag and leaves. No background check, no paperwork, just grabs this
movie magic.
Freaking machine gun and is like, "I'm going to go do some stuff now."
Yeah, it would really break up the flow of the movie if he walked out and then you had to wait 7 days to come back to pick it up. Like we've got
had to go through the waiting period and file a tax stamp because it's full auto, and
we've got movies to shoot,
all that stuff.
So let me throw this one at you. The Agent Smith gun from The Matrix. Now that's
sure.
Again, being a new to Pew guy, I'm working off visual aesthetics, and that is a beautiful weapon right there. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. What is it?
So that's the IMI Desert Eagle, 50 Action Express. So 1/2-inch bullet, right? Big fat, yeah. It's bigger than a 45. So if there's any boomers, yeah. This is also one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorites because it's so big.
Okay.
It actually uses a rotating bolt, kind of like in an AR.
Okay.
Like if you pull the bolt out, it has a bolt, first of all, instead of it just being a slide. There's actually a bolt in this gun. It's so big. Gas operated. Yeah, it's monstrously large. Most people have a hard time wrapping their hand around it because the grip is so big, because it's a 1/2-inch bullet. There's a whole bunch of them in there. And then that magazine has to go into the grip of that pistol, and it just makes for an enormous grip. So unless you're a pretty big dude, you are not going to wrap your hand around that. Although I've seen women shoot it, I don't know how that works because I sure can't.
All right, so
they got a stronger grip than me.
Same movie. Another. I'm going to say it's a commonly used firearm, the Beretta.
Sure. So the one you're showing on the screen is a Beretta 84, which is a smaller version. If you do a quick search for the Beretta 92, that's probably the one you're thinking of more than others.
92. Okay.
Yeah. And that was the one that was adopted by the U.S. military, and the one Mel Gibson carried in Lethal Weapon.
Right. Okay.
Right. Murtaugh was carrying the wheel gun, and the new young cop on the scene was carrying the Beretta.
We'll go back to the 80s babies. What firearm is Megatron from the Transformers?
Megatron, I believe, is a
P-38.
I always get this wrong because I want him to be something else.
You're an idiot, Starscream.
But the funny thing about that is Megatron in his gun form was based on a firearm carried by another fictional character, the Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was a show in the, I want to say, late 60s, early 70s, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's
traveling
Megatron.
Gunslinger. That's Megatron.
Megatron.
But you got to get a picture of Megatron, like with the stock and the scope and all that, and then do a quick search for the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Right there.
Yeah, there he is.
The full-blown Megatron. Okay. All right, I'm going to throw this one. There's another 80s classic here. Let's talk about the Uzi, sir. Break that down for me now.
We had a good conversation on this one the other day. Yeah, because there's multiple versions of it, right? And the Uzi was famous both in fiction and in the news in the 80s, right? So you have the Uzi, the mini Uzi, which is a slightly smaller version, and then the micro Uzi, which is their, if we're comparing this to handguns, it's their subcompact. Mm-hmm. All three were designed as open bolt, full auto, 9mm. I believe the full size also came in a 45. But
I'm shocked.
High cyclic rate.
I'm totally surprised that shoots 9mm. To be honest with you, that's
why.
Well, because I'm new to Pew, and this for the uneducated is a machine gun. And people who probably aren't as educated as I am becoming think of 9mm as handgun. That's what because in movies you very rarely hear the caliber unless they're bragging about it, which means big gun, take them out. So when you first told me that the Uzi shot 9mm the same as my handgun, it's just shocking.
So the machine gun is an accurate term in the sense that it's full auto. As long as you hold the trigger down, it will continue to fire. Mm-hmm. But this is technically in a class called submachine guns, which means they are using pistol caliber ammunition. So we'll stick with the Uzi for now. So the Uzi was famous for, in fiction, movies like Delta Force, Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe carried an Uzi at different times, and in nonfiction, there's a pretty famous scene when Reagan was shot of a Secret Service agent pulling a full-size Uzi out from under his suit jacket.
And here you see the president coming out now. We just have to watch. I don't know whether we can hear this or not. Shots.
He's holding it from the hip. And again, that was legitimate tactics at the time, was to use these compact submachine guns and fire from the hip. It was not a strict aimed fire kind of thing like we do now. It, you know, a certain degree of secondary casualties was acceptable at the time. And he's got that pose where he's holding it at the hip and getting ready to just wet it down. Probably another good one to look at this point would be the MP5, another extremely distinct profile. And when you pull that up, you'll see, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that in a bunch of movies. Right. Yep. So, right. And I love how you're getting airsoft stuff mixed in there, but yeah, so this is what Dylan had in Predator. Dylan! When he got his arm shot off.
You son of a bitch.
Right. There's a bunch of different variations. These are real big in the 80s. GSG, the German counter-terrorist group, used these almost exclusively. They were adopted by the U.S. Navy SEALs and a bunch of other special forces units. So it's very common to see MP5s depicted in film in those roles. So again, same 9mm cartridge that you're using in your handgun goes into these. Just there's a lot more of them, and the cyclic rate is a lot faster. But these are cool. So
is this considered like the compact alternate to the AR for back then? Like, because it's
yes.
Okay.
So the idea was that these were better suited to close quarters combat, where a full size rifle. So if we're going to break that down, you've got battle rifles that are usually 30 caliber or larger. You have assault rifles that are intermediate calibers, so slightly smaller, like the 7.62 by 39 and the 5.56. And then you have submachine guns that are pistol caliber, but give you the added benefit of multiple points of contact, a stock, and are still extremely maneuverable through confined spaces.
Classic 80s movie, Rambo.
Sure.
What is that big ass gun there?
So the big belt-fed gun that everybody thinks of when you say Rambo is the M60.
Okay.
And that is a 7.62 by 51 light machine gun. Belt-fed.
What? Light?
Yeah. Light machine gun. So here's the thing. Light machine gun in the sense that it's man-portable. You also have what's called a heavy machine gun, like the Browning M2, which fires the 50 BMG cartridge, not to be confused with the 50 Action Express pistol cartridge from the Desert Eagle earlier. The 50 BMG is almost as long as your hand.
I got big ass hands. I got Desert Eagle hands. Holy shit!
Right.
Wow.
So these are basically 308 cartridges linked in a belt, in a disintegrating belt. So the belt separates as it's ejected out the other side. But yeah, again, I want to say 800 rounds per minute cyclic rate, multiple belts. So the image you have there is actually nonsense.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. The classic, like shot with him and what I think is a grenade in the end of the gun.
It's a rocket-propelled grenade on the end of the M60. I don't know that was ever a functional thing, because the shape of that rocket-propelled grenade sure looks like a Soviet RPG. So I think the artist there got confused and was like, I'm going to do the grenade launcher. No, I'm going to do the M60. No, I'm going to do a little bit of both, and hopefully nobody notices, because it's going to look cool when I'm done.
How you ever going to make it on the outside world if you keep making a fool out yourself?
We're both big fans of the A-Team, right? The A-Team.
I want to rash bags! I want them!
So in the first season, I think the main gun that they showed the A-Team using, and for the most part, I think for a long time, they only had one gun, and Hannibal kept it in the toolbox, and I forget what the well, for the entire A-Team, right? And he was using a Mini 14 in stainless with a folding stock that was popular at the time. I don't know why, because they really suck, but it allows that gun to be folded up and more compact for storage. And then you can do cool things like stick it in a toolbox in the back of the A-Team van.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the only gun you saw anybody on the team using for quite a while was that Mini 14. And then all the Army guys had their M16s that were after the A-Team.
But there's at least 2 of them on the set here in this picture, because
I see
Faceman's
that.
got
Yeah.
one and Hannibal's got
My
one.
question is, what season was that? That might have been season 3 or season
Could be.
later on when the budget expanded and they got a second gun. Here's another cool movie gun that was in Robocop, Navy SEALs, pretty much anything where you need the biggest gun you can come up with, and that's the Barrett M82A1. Damn! I'm just waiting to see the expression on your face.
The tank killer. Look at that thing. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Like,
yeah.
You really don't get the full effect until you get a photo with a person.
That's a big Twinkie.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the gun by itself, you go, yeah, that's a really long magazine in there. But then you get it with a person, you're like, holy shnikes, that thing's as big as he is.
The
And
magazine is about like 2 iPhones side by side in width. Just for the listening audience. Holy shit.
Ronnie Barrett of Barrett Firearms Manufacturing is in my opinion one of the greatest firearms designers of our time. He came up with this. This was his brainchild. It went through several iterations before it hit this level. It's a semi-automatic 50 BMG. So this fires a cartridge that belongs in a heavy machine gun in a super accurate semi-automatic rifle format that snipers use as an anti-material rifle. So
anti-material? I love that term.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, before the cartel boss boards his airplane, shoot it with this from a mile away and disable the vehicle. Use this to destroy the plane. Use this to penetrate light armor. Use this to turn cover into concealment and liquidate everything behind that concrete wall.
So that's the engine block killer. Like that's going right for the grill to take out the vehicle.
Yeah, yeah, and not on like a Mack truck, like on a light armored vehicle.
All right, let me throw this one at you now. What is the handgun from Robocop?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you, so we're gonna have to
stump the bag.
We're gonna have to take it to Google. It may be a CZ, so they're calling it the Auto 9.
It's a Barrett.
So it's a Beretta M93R. So the M93R
pistol. Don't let the Democrats hear this one. Machine pistol will be over the fucking news now. Wow. Watch out, y'all.
So the M93 is the full auto version of the M92.
Okay.
Right? So the Beretta handgun we looked at earlier, 9mm semi-automatic, yeah, there it is in its natural state with the fold down front grip.
It's got a kickstand. Holy shit. It's got a kickstand. What?
That's not a kickstand. That's not a bipod. It's not a monopod. That is that's a second grip, so you can hold it like in a boxing stance, because this thing's going to go and dump that whole magazine really, really quickly.
Oh, so they took one of those and modded it out for the movie. But this is what it was built
They basically put a body kit on it to make it look like something funky.
Nah, man, that's a kickstand. Kickstand has one leg. Bipod has 2 legs. That's a kickstand. That's a fucking kickstand, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, I had no idea that was like modded out like that. I thought that was the actual firearm that Robocop had.
No, and that's really common too. Is they'll take a common firearm and put a bunch of stuff on it, or take a bunch of stuff off of it. Like everything in Star Wars makes me sick to my stomach.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Yeah.
Because they're all abominations. And like Han Solo's pistol started off as a broom-handled Mauser, had a bunch of crap on it. The Stormtrooper rifles, some of the newer ones, and even my son, who's 7, is like, Dad, why do they put the scope on the bottom? That doesn't make any sense. And I go, yeah, it's Star Wars, dude. That's why I hate this franchise. That's why G.I. Joe is cooler.
G.I. Joe!
So now that I've said I hate Star Wars, please send your hate mail to new2pew at blackbagresources.com, where Max will read them on air next week.
And may the force be with you always.
Sure.
So I looked up.
Sure. Whatever.
I looked up the gun from Blade, the vampire killing vampire, and it says it's a Benelli M3 Super 90. Does that sound familiar?
Tactical shotgun.
But it's a handgun.
Benelli M3 Super 90. Yeah. It's a handgun? That's not what I'm thinking of then. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Pull up a picture.
Yeah, let me show you. Okay, so this is what pops up when I typed in Blade gun. And that's what he had in the movie. It looks like a Uzi, though, with a little front kit on it.
It looks more like a Mac 11 to me, but
sure, you're way more educated
M3
with these
Super
things.
90. Yeah,
but if I look up
modified pistol grip,
if I look up
Benelli M3 is a shotgun.
Yeah, that comes up as a shotgun. So, I mean,
look
maybe
up a Benelli Super 90.
Yeah, that's what this is right here. That's what it comes up as a shotgun.
Yeah, which is why it confused my little turtle brain.
But watching it in the movie, he's firing it off like it's a Uzi, like it's rapid fire, and like looking at this picture, this looks like an Uzi with or a tech with a body kit on it.
Not a tech, but a Mac 11. So the Mac 11 is the 9mm version of the Mac 10, which is the 45 ACP submachine gun. Yeah, that's looking like a
right.
Yeah, that's definitely. If that's not a Mac, it's a knockoff of a Mac with a bunch of crap on it.
Because it's even got the rack little button.
No, there it is. Scroll back up a little bit. Yeah, scroll back up a little bit, and it says Shogun's Mac 11 Blade. So yeah.
So it's a Mac 11, really.
And sometimes the internet is wrong.
That's got to be awkward to use. It looks front heavy. That kit in the front.
Yeah, well, you're not going to hold that with one hand. You're going to put a second hand on there, and again,
Blade did it with one hand. That's how you shoot.
That's because he's so big.
Still heavy. But you're so big.
Ooh, I got one for you. All right, so
sure.
Let me go to the Googles for the visual reference, and when I show it to you, you're gonna know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. This is one of the cooler on-screen firearms usage from Terminator 2, the cool little swinging rackable shotgun there. So what is this thing?
So it's a falling block lever action shotgun. I don't know exactly the model.
Okay.
Pull it up.
Oh, wait, no, that's definitely not it. It says
Winchester something.
1887.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yep. That's what Google says. It's a Winchester 1887 model.
Yeah, and there was a company that recently, in the last 8 or 9 years, started making a reproduction of that gun again. That was awful. Like, people were buying them. They were like, I can't even shoot this thing because the lever's so gritty and stiff. And yeah, it was not a pleasant firearm to shoot by any stretch.
All right, so the hand solo blaster is what? Is this based on a real firearm?
Originally, a broom handle Mauser. So if you take that picture and put it side by side with a broom handle Mauser, you'll see it's not that different. It's just got a bunch of crap on it.
It's literally called broom handle Mauser?
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
The gun went into the stock, and that was the holster, and then you took it out of the holster and put the holster on the back of the gun and used it as a stock.
Yeah, I see the hinges right here. Look at that.
Transformers.
Any other honorable mentions you want to throw in before we wrap this one up? Because we are at the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, the other one we talked about post-production the other night was the AR-7 that was in one of the James Bond movies that he uses as a sniper rifle, which is now the U.S. survival from Henry, and it's a great little gun. I have one. I like it. Not the best shooter out there, but it's a compact little 22 rifle that disassembles and stores in its own stock and floats, and was designed as like a survival rifle for pilots if their plane went down. And James Bond in his universe turned it into a highly technical sniper rifle to take out some target. There's that one. The Tech 9 was another popular quote unquote bad guy gun in the 80s, which I think is another great looking piece. Terrible performance by modern standards, but in the 80s it was the pinnacle of technology, right? Polymer frame. Yeah, I like how you're getting the wrapper Tech 9 mixed in there. But
my Google algorithm is going to be red flagging me all over the place because for the entire night I've just been Googling different firearms. So if this is our last episode, ladies and gentlemen, because Max is now in custody. Yeah, I remember the Tech 9 being the cool urban gangster choice before the Glock like really became such a staple.
Sure. And that's probably another thing we should throw out there, is the nonsense that goes into the conversation anytime a character talks about the firearm. They just make stuff up and put it into the dialogue. The Glock in particular in Die Hard 2, he talks about it being a polymer gun that you won't pick up on airport scanners and all this other stuff, and it costs more than you make in a year. None of that was true at the time. It still isn't true.
Glock isn't plastic. Replica. You can't just walk through the plastic Glock.
The frame is polymer, but you still have a metal slide, a metal barrel, a bunch of metal parts in the trigger group that, it's not invisible to a metal detector. There's a ton of metal in that gun still.
I remember that being like a talking point.
Yeah. It's ceramic and you'll never know. None of that was true. There's a scene in one of the Lethal Weapon movies where they're in a shootout and somebody shoots Murtaugh's son's friend.
Right.
And the conversation that goes on about the firearm that he had was, again, equally absurd. It was a full auto with all the trimmings and dual carbines. And a carbine is a short rifle.
See, now you know.
To say that an Uzi had dual carbines, I'm like, what does that even mean?
Now you know how I feel when people shoot sprinklers and they all go off.
Yeah.
Because that's not a thing.
That's not how that works.
No, it's not how it works.
That's not how that works. If you're more interested in this, there are other podcasts out there like Guns of Hollywood that you can listen to. This is what they do, Hollywood Guns. And they review movies and do all that stuff.